Hi, I'm Rashonda Cade. This is Reading with Rashonda. We are reading The House Behind the Cedars by Charles Chesnutt. We're on chapter 17. Um, Tryon is like, I can't marry Rena. She's black. I'm going back home. And that's where we are. So, chapter 17 Two Letters. Warwick awaited events with some calmness and some philosophy. He could hardly have had the one without the other, and it required much philosophy to make him wait a week in patience for information upon a subject in which he was so vitally interested. The delay pointed to disaster. Bad news being expected, delay at least put off the evil day. At the end of the week he received two letters, one addressed in his own handwriting and postmarked Patesville, North Carolina, the other in the handwriting of George Tryon. He opened the Patesville letter, which ran as follows: My dear son, Frank is writing this letter for me. I am not well, but thank the Lord I am better than I was. Rena has had a heap of trouble on account of me and my sickness. If I could have dreamt that I was going to do so much harm, I would have died and gone to meet my God without writing one word to spoil my girl's chances in life. But I didn't know what was going to happen, and I hope the Lord will forgive me. Frank knows all about it, and so I am having him write this letter for me, as Rena is not well enough yet. Frank has been very good to me and to Rena. He was down to your place and saw Rena there, and never said a word about it to nobody, not even to me, because he didn't want to do Rena no harm. Frank is the best friend I have got in town, because he does so much for me and don't want nothing in return. He tells me not to put this in about him, but I want you to know it. And now about Rena. She come to see me and I got better right away, for it was longing for her as much as anything else that made me sick, and I was mighty miserable. When she had been here 3 days and was going back next day, she went up to town to see the doctor for me, and while she was up there she fainted and fell down in the street, and Dr. Green sent her home in his buggy and come down to see her. He couldn't tell what was the matter with her, but she has been sick ever since and out of her head some of the time, and keeps on calling on somebody by the name of George, which was the young white man she told me she was going to marry. It seems he was in town the day Rena took sick, for Frank saw him up street and run all the way down here to tell me so that she could keep out of his way, while she was still uptown waiting for the doctor and getting me some camphor gum for my camphor bottle. I have to pause here because so many missives have been sent back and forth. I didn't remember anything about this when we started reading, but I certainly didn't remember that this was epistolary in nature. I mean, the whole thing is certainly not epistolary, but we have sent messages back and forth. Some have been received, some haven't been received. Here's another letter explaining things. There's apparently going to be another letter since the chapter is titled Two Letters, and this is just the first letter. Wow, look at all these letters going back and forth. I mean, clearly today I guess we would have emails or texts or whatever else, but this is really interesting. And the problem we have with text messages is, can people really understand what I'm feeling? People put LOL all the time when they're not hardly laughing out loud, but they just want somebody to know they're feeling lighthearted or not sarcastic or whatever. So are we getting everything in the letters? I'm fascinated. Are you fascinated? Be fascinated with me. All right, I'll keep reading. Old Judge Straight must have knowed something about it, for he sent me a note to keep Rena in the house, but the little boy he sent it by didn't bring it till Rena was already gone uptown, and, as I couldn't read, of course I didn't know what it said. Dr. Green heard and literacy. We've got all these letters going back and forth, and half of them are to people who don't know how to read, or to person who doesn't know how to read. Okay. Dr. Green heard Rena running on while she was out of her head, and I reckon he must have suspicioned something, for he looked kind of queer and went away without saying nothing. Frank says she met this man on the street, and when he found out she wasn't white, he said or done something that broke her heart, and she fainted and fell down. I am writing you this letter because I know you will be worrying about Rena not coming back. If it wasn't for Frank, I hardly know how I could write to you. Frank is not going to say nothing about Rena's passing for white and meeting this man, and neither am I. And I don't suppose Judge Straight will say nothing because he is our good friend, and Dr. Green won't say nothing about it because Frank says Dr. Green's cook Nancy says this young man named George stopped with him and was some cousin or relation to the family, and they wouldn't want people to know that any of their kin was thinking about marrying a colored girl. And the white folks have all been mad since J.B. Thompson married his black housekeeper when she got religion and wouldn't live with him no more. I know how we've been living, but I got Jesus now. We can't keep living like that. That took a lot of guts for J.B. Thompson's black housekeeper to be like, nah, you might have owned me a few years ago and we had to do this, but we ain't got to keep doing it. And a lot of guts for J.B. Thompson to marry her. Anyway, let's continue with the letter. All the rest of the connection are well. Did I skip? Okay. I have just been in to see how Rena is. She is feeling some better, I think, and says give you her love and she will write you a letter in a few days, as soon as she is well enough. She bust out crying while she was talking, but I reckon that is better than being out of her head. I hope this may find you well and that this man of Rena's won't say nor do nothing down there to hurt you. He has not wrote to Rena nor sent her no word. I reckon he is very mad. Your affectionate mother, Mary Walden. I thought about that too. He is justifiably angry. I know I was throwing shade and side eye at Tryon because I feel that. But he's justifiably angry. But I would think they would have tried to talk or connect or something. I mean, he was outside of her house. He could have. Anyway. This letter, while confirming Warwick's fears, relieved his suspense. He at least knew the worst, unless there should be something still more disturbing in Tryon's letter, which he now proceeded to open, and which ran as follows. John Warwick, Esquire. Dear Sir. Dear Sir. Not, hello, my friend. Dear Sir. Dear Sir. When I inform you, as you are doubtless informed ere the receipt of this, that I saw your sister in Patesville last week and learned the nature of those antecedents of yours and hers at which you hinted so obscurely in a recent conversation, you will not be surprised to learn that I take this opportunity of renouncing any pretensions to Miss Warwick's hand, and request you to convey this message to her, since it was through you that I formed her acquaintance. I think perhaps that few white men would deem it necessary to make an explanation under the circumstances, and I do not know that I need say more than that no one, considering where and how I met your sister, would have dreamed of even the possibility of what I have learned. I might with justice reproach you for trifling with the most sacred feelings of a man's heart, but I realize the hardship of your position and hers and can make allowances. How big of him? I would never have sought to know this thing. I would doubtless have been happier had I gone through life without finding it out, but having the knowledge, I cannot ignore it, as you must understand perfectly well. I get you can't unknow something, but he sounds offended. It's all your fault. I'm unhappy because you introduced me to her, and now I know that you guys are black, and boo. I regret that she should be distressed or disappointed. She has not suffered alone. I need scarcely assure you that I shall say nothing about this affair, and that I shall keep your secret as though it were my own. Personally, I shall never be able to think of you as other than a white man, as you may gather from the tone of this letter, and while I cannot marry your sister, I wish you every happiness and remain yours very truly, George Tryon. So you can pretend that Warwick is a white man? Like, it's not even really pretending. You're like, I can't think of you as anything but a white man, so you remain a white man to me. But your sister? Oh, no. Really? Really? I'm worked up about that. Okay. It's just a couple paragraphs left. I'm going to finish this. Warwick could not know that this formal epistle was the last of a dozen that Tryon had written and destroyed during the week since the meeting in Patesville. Hot, blistering letters, cold, cutting letters, scornful, crushing letters. Though none of them was sent, except this last, they had furnished a safety valve for his emotions and had left him in a state of mind that permitted him to write the foregoing. I mean, that is nice about writing stuff down. Like, you can get rid of it. And you feel better having written it. And now, while Rena is recovering from her illness and Tryon from his love, and while fate is shuffling the cards for another deal, a few words may be said about the past life of the people who lived in the rear of the flower garden in the quaint old house beyond the cedars, and how their lives were mingled with those of the men and women around them and others that were gone. For connected with our kind we must be, if not by our virtues, then by our vices, for if not by our services, at least by our needs. That's a very interesting paragraph. I'm not sure what I'm making with that. For connected with our kind we must be. Have you ever read Our Kind of People? I don't remember who it's by, but it's a book, nonfiction, about probably late 19th, early 20th century black people who were the upper crust people, our kind of people. And then back to Tryon. You are my friend. I can think of you as my equal, as a white man. Your sister, though, I can't do that. Like, is it because women are beneath men? Because black is beneath white? Is it all of that? Is it because he was in love? Is it because he thought he was in love? Is it because he's angry? Like, I don't know what to make of that. You've only known John as a white man, and that's how you will continue to think of him. You only knew Rena as a white woman. Why can you not continue to think of her thusly? I've got feelings and quandaries. Like, what is happening? I love it. This is how I like to feel when I read books. Anyway, that was chapter 17 of The House Behind the Cedars by Charles Chesnutt. I'm Rashonda Cade, and this is Reading with Rashonda.